Welcome to Power Up, the podcast that uncovers the unique challenges women leaders face today. Join your hosts, Nat and Kristen, as we dive into the tough topics and provide actionable insights you can apply right now. Don't forget to hit subscribe so you don't miss any episodes. Before you close this episode down, we're talking about meetings again. We're talking about meetings again.
Optimism.
We're talking about optimizing your day and your calendar. And I just feel like, yes, we've done a couple sessions on meetings, but we promise you it's not going to be a boring one because we've been thinking about meetings. And we started last year by focusing on like time management and prioritization and then energy management. And it's like we're still in calendar crunch. So we are going to continue to talk about this subject until we can crack it. Right?
I think I used to say I'm fueled by values and vendettas, and I think we are both fueled by vendettas. And our first vendetta was ghosting culture, people just like not turning up when they said they would. And this has become a second one because we see it so much and it has a massive impact on your career, and it's invisible because no one gets taught how to manage your calendar. Everyone's making it up as they go. We all think what we're doing is, in quotation marks, normal. And some people, actually a lot of us, are shooting ourselves in the foot with the way we manage our calendars. And we want to solve that because, what a dumb way to not get where you want to go is having an overloaded calendar.
Do you think we're going to solve it in 28 minutes?
Yes.
Okay, let's do it.
Give
All
us
right.
22.
Let's do it. Okay. Well, there's a few themes here, but what I would love to start with, we interviewed someone in Power Suit called Laurent Sylvestre, and he is lovely.
And
And
Kristen has to say his name because she's French and she can speak en français.
Laurent Sylvestre, and he talked about if you are in meetings, back-to-back meetings, someone else is owning your time. Effectively, because you are just running from someone else's urgency to work to scheduling. And what happens is we are constantly on the back foot and we never stop and question, why does our workday look the way it does? Or why do I have 36 meetings this week? That's literally, we got on a call last week with a few people who have 36 meetings in a week. And I think there are some, we're not talking about like your work is meetings like that. But if you're in
Yeah,
sales
and
and,
also those sort of
blah, blah, blah.
external client meetings, which actually covered off a lot of theirs, that it was like work. Yeah.
Yeah, no judgment. We were talking about this like de facto, everything has to be a meeting. That's what we're chatting about today.
I I picked up my foster dog again yesterday, and he is currently really making himself comfortable on the couch. He is stretching out like a little kangaroo.
Oh,
Very distracting. So,
another pod dog.
couple of things that have gone through my brain thinking about this. One, and I just did a LinkedIn post about it, which will be 2 weeks old by the time you listen, about how uncomfortable it is to have an empty calendar. I haven't had one for a long time, and I've had 2 weeks, and it's not that it's empty, but there's like big blocks of my days. Normally, my day is like scheduled down to 15-minute increments, and suddenly it's sort of it cleared, and there's like a couple of focus areas, but a lot of those focus areas are on sort of ambiguous sort of thinking stuff. And it is deeply uncomfortable. So I do think that we jump into filling our calendar because unconsciously we're avoiding that discomfort of going, how do I make progress or how do I deal with these less certain, less defined, no immediate payoff or achievement sense things? So it's much easier to stay in things. But the second thing that I was thinking about was and I'd be interested if everyone listening really was honest with themselves on this, because I don't think this is true for everyone, and I do think it is gendered. I think a lot of us assume that a calendar invite is a summons. So when we get a meeting invite in our calendars in an open block of time, we just consider that time booked. We don't think about it. We just default to it being done. And I think that is more the case with women. What do you think about that?
Well, I heard the word filling, and I just think it's important to point out that your first point, I think, flows really well into your second point in that I think we've become passengers and bystanders of our time, in that we're not necessarily like if we were actively filling our calendars, we'd be in control of our time. But I think what's probably happening is we are passively being invited to, 30 meetings a week. And as a result, our assumption is that is where the work gets done. And in fact, not assumption, it is our learned behavior because I think we should, what's the saying? Credit where credit's due is that you do get work done in meetings. It's just not the best place for all of our work to be done. Like most meetings don't have to be meetings, but you do get, you can have conversations and connection and decisions can be made. Like work can be done in meetings, but I suspect 30% of our meetings, it's actually the wrong venue slash format slash channel, I think.
And a great example of why meetings aren't always the best format is I got distracted from looking at the dog to looking at myself and was like, damn it, we should really be videoing this because I look good today. I put lipstick on and my skin looks brown. And I was like, yeah, this is what happens in the middle of meetings. We all just get distracted and stuff. Kristen's not even looking at me. You should focus
We
on me,
are
Kristen.
videoing this. We are videoing this.
Okay. We
I'm
should publish the videos.
Yeah, we're
Um,
going to. I'm gonna try a new tool. I've got a new tool. I was just waiting for our third video, so I've got 3 videos to play with while we're on a 14-day free trial. So anyway.
So I do think so we've sort of uncovered a couple of motivations. One, it's uncomfortable having to decide what to do, so we just want to intuitively fill our time. Second thing is some of us feel like other people when they invite us to something, it's locked in. And then the third one that you just spoke about, which has now completely gone out of my mind,
Well, is it the appropriate.
is it the appropriate? That's right. Which
Yeah,
is
like, is
actually
this.
something that I think is a huge deal. Yeah.
Yeah, and I would feel pretty comfortable with it going 30% of your meetings aren't shouldn't be meetings. And so that is our challenge, first of all. And I feel pretty confident saying that based on the thousands of people we've spoken to, and or looked at their calendars just this year. And actually, you asked about gender, and on that, our meetings gendered. In fact, they are. Men who protect their time are perceived as more senior and efficient. Women who protect their time are viewed as unhelpful. So already there's a bit of a bias as it relates to women putting up boundaries and protecting their time. I think there's also some decent stats around women are more likely to say yes to meeting events and more likely to end up as passengers in them. And that was back to your second point of we're not actively taking control of our time and or the meeting. We just accept it. It is a summons. We attend. We hear what needs to be said, or we collect some information, or we may contribute, may not. But for the most part, we're not. We're simply just passengers in someone else's time block, and that is happens far more to women than men. And this is a problem when knowledge workers are in more meetings than ever and report feeling less productive than ever.
Yeah, and I think we talk now a lot about the helpful versus strategic dilemma that a lot of women face. And when you are a passenger, or consider yourself a passenger in your week, in your calendar, and you're just going along with it, you will most likely get a great reputation for being a doer. You will be the person who's incredibly helpful, who comes along, takes the notes, takes on the actions, puts their hand up for all the work, all of that stuff. And that's really helpful. And you will be used for that amazing doing help that you deliver. But when important conversations come up or decisions need to be made, you're not seen as strategic because you're the doer. You're the one who's just like letting your calendar be run by all the decision makers. And you accidentally position yourself as that because when people are taking control of their calendar and not turning up to everything, and again, like hashtag not all jobs, like there are some jobs, especially if you're client facing or in like a project management, like let's just assume, we're talking here about those internal meetings that there are actually multiple ways we could do them, but we focus on just the one. You actually do position yourself as, and I have been so guilty of this. I remember in so many places, especially when I was consulting, that I was like, "Oh, I've really just positioned myself as the person who just takes the stuff and goes and does it, and I'm very good at that." But like I should really be in those rooms making the decisions because like they're not making the best decisions, but I had created that rod for my own back. And I also think when you talk about the gendered nature of men protecting their time as seen as senior and efficient. And like we have been given this advice by some incredible allies who've just said just because you get invited or just because someone messages you doesn't mean you need to reply. And that was a real light bulb for me. I think that was your husband who first mentioned it to us years ago. And I think that, like, it was a real light bulb for me. But I also think because women are socialized to be helpful and polite and likable, we don't know how to say no. And we've got a whole bunch of content in the Power Suit Network, and our members are practicing saying no all the time. When we don't know how to do it, we end up mucking it up. And so we come across as passive aggressive, or we ghost, or we say things like, I'm too busy. And that kind of means that when we say no to meetings, we are seen as unhelpful because we are being unhelpful when we say no. Whereas what I've noticed a lot more in my career, and this is a sample size of one person, but when I've interacted with a lot of men, they are much more comfortable saying, I don't think I need to be there. Or is there a reason I need to be there? It's not personal. It's not about how busy they are. It's not about how senior they are. They're just like, if you can't tell me why I'm going and I can't see why I'm going, do we need to have a conversation about whether or not I should even be going? And there's no stress, there's no tension. It's not seen as unhelpful. It's just really like stating the facts and moving on, you know?
I think there's probably 2 camps of meetings, and the first is that the real challenge of, like, probably doesn't have to happen. Like, do you even need to say yes to this? And we'll talk about a few ways that you can strategically get out of a meeting or really start to raise, like, shine a spotlight on this culture of nonstop meetings. So that's the first thing. I think the second thing is that recognizing that many women get invited to meetings for alignment, which means you are there as an observer, whereas men are often in the rooms, like to your point, where decisions or strategy is happening. So let's say you are assuming positive intent and you're grateful to be invited into a meeting with stakeholders, with people that can increase your visibility. We talked a lot last week about the difference between and this is in Power Suit, the difference between presence and visibility. And presence is, again, just being there. You've been invited to be an observer. Well, frankly, that's not good enough. So I think that second bucket, there's some really interesting ways that you can change your going because you want visibility. What are the things you need to do just switch it from being present to visibility? What are the so I think there's kind of two things. One is actually removing it from your calendar, diplomatic ways to do that. And the second is going, look, this meeting's happening with or without me. I want to be in the room. And how can you not just be in the room, but be at the table and have a voice?
Yeah, and it actually reminds me a little bit of a conversation we've had before about owning your opinions as well. And a lot of times early in our careers, we see ourselves as I say executioners, that might be the wrong word, but I see it all the time with women who'll go into those
Executors?
meetings. Executors,
Executors.
executioners. And they go into the meetings and they take the instructions and they execute them. And what we need to do is involve ourselves in designing the instructions. And that is a mindset shift to say, I am not in the room to listen and execute. I am in the room to form and shape and design and then maybe execute. And just changing that, it's almost the same mindset of accepting every meeting, accepting meetings that come your way. Honestly, this puppy has been a dream all day, but he is not
I know.
impressed.
Well, to be fair, it's 4:30 in the afternoon and it's time for a walk. So,
Yeah, I think it is. We'll go
we're good.
in 10 minutes. 10 minutes, puppy. Just go chew your fish. He's got a fish. Go chew your
Yeah,
tail.
I
That'll work.
so like can okay, let's get back to that whole visibility thing and how to actually take control of your personal brand in the spaces that do matter, meetings that are happening, you get in the room, how can you have a voice? Let's chat about that in a minute. How might we remove the meetings that don't need to be meetings from our calendar? Or what are some tips?
A meeting turns up in your calendar and you're not sure what to do. I think the first step is to have that little mindset shift of this is not a summons. I really like that. This is not a summons. This is an invite. So I am in control of deciding whether or not I want to go. And I think even just starting with that mindset shift of not automatically accepting, I think might be a strong start.
I love it. I love the idea of a gracious decline and or clarification, and by simply replying and saying, "Before I confirm, can you help me understand what you need from me?" And if they can articulate your purpose in that meeting, amazing.
I love it. We also like to talk about contributing, like we've talked a little bit about that in this session. And it really struck me. We had an epic mini masterclass in PowerSuit last week on understanding a profit and loss. And one of the things that really struck me, two things that struck me in that is one, the presenters were amazing practitioners. And they made a key point early on that in any senior leadership or board meeting, finances are going to not only come up, they're going to be at the center of most decisions. And then the second thing I noticed, which I'm sure you noticed too, is we had about half as many people turn up live as we usually do. And when we talk about contributing, one of the things that, and this is sort of a slightly bigger picture, but upskill. Like get yourself into a position that you can contribute in that meeting. And if you are given the opportunity to go to somewhere where a situation where there may be senior stakeholders, people that you want to build relationships with, people that you want to show that you are more than what your current job title might suggest, then arming yourself with the knowledge to actually contribute at that level, to not take instructions and execute them, but to contribute to the conversation is incredibly useful. So I don't know if that's really like a saying no to the meeting or what to do when it comes in, but I very much am. If I have ever been invited to a meeting where I'm like, I don't really know much about this subject, I'm going to go learn it if it's an important meeting. So I'm going to turn up having read the financial statements or having looked into the technical report just to have enough information to understand it. That is so much easier now. Obviously, you want to strip out any identifying information, but you can chuck that stuff into a robot and say, tell me what I need to know about this conversation. So you are actively turning up rather than turning up as a passenger.
No, I do think it is invite comes in. And if you are committing to an hour of your time, short or longer, whatever it might be, and investing your time, I think what you're inviting people to do is prep. So, first of all, get prepared for that meeting because you've already, by accepting
That's a
it,
short way of saying it. Yes.
yeah, no, but you're effectively is prep. And the other, I think the other prep is a master the pre-meeting. And so that's, you could learn and you could do the form of learning. We love the robots. If you have to find stuff from company documents, amazing. But equally, have a pre-meeting. It could be the person that organizes it. It could be the expert that is presenting in it, but mastering the pre-meeting and getting a sense of any decisions that'll be made, how you might contribute, any gaps that you'd like to have filled before the meeting, master the pre-meeting.
I like it. The final one from me is just like audit your calendar. Like just audit your calendar right now. Drop everything for the next 10 minutes and look out this week and just go, what have I accepted on autopilot? What do I need to prep for? What do I need to remove or ask or graciously decline? What I'm doing, being spending my valuable time in there. And I think even if you do that every time as a mini way every time a meeting comes in. You're putting yourself in a much stronger position of owning your calendar. And I feel like we harp on about this a lot, but I just honestly, if we can, I'm almost thinking like we need to reposition PowerSuit as we can save you from hours and hours and hours in meeting and your team from hours and hours and hours and unnecessary meetings because a lot of it is just autopilot. So I think doing a quick audit is very helpful.
Okay, I want to suggest that you ask everyone the next time you're in a meeting or you're having a coffee or whatever, you're in a group, because no doubt a lot of meetings will happen within your team. And so I think the best way to start is to ask everyone how many meetings they have that week, and actually just like start to get people to go, oh my gosh, I've got 20, I've got 7, I've got 35, and start to have conversations about what meetings do we have to be meetings? Could we combine a couple? Is the frequency right? Is the length and duration right? But I suppose, action or invite or idea is to start to have a conversation about the meeting culture.
We got sort of challenged on this last week about team meetings and how do you get to know each other and connect if you're kind of canceling some of these meetings. And I've been pondering it since because my assumption is that often you are connecting with people in other meetings, and we should do this in a mini masterclass for our members at some point about the different types of meetings. But I think things like team meetings they almost are passenger meetings unless everyone's actively into them, and we've both seen so many team meetings that stand-ups, all the classics that devolve into, like, the same 2 people speaking the whole time, half the people disengaged, people that's not connecting. So if you have meetings that in theory should be really valuable for connecting, for sharing information, for whatever it is, collaborating, but they're not actually doing it, it is worth getting honest about that because you can reformat them to make them way more productive. And often the way we've reformatted them is to rip out all the stuff that you can do asynchronously so people can update each other on stuff so that when you're connecting, you're doing things like a quiz or something that actually helps you connect with each other.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. I love it. And then I just want to end on, for my point, is end on that concept of presence versus visibility. And in the next week or two, when you're in a meeting, start to think about, okay, I appreciate that some meetings you go to because politically it's the right thing to do and you're not going to change the entire culture of the organization in a day. However, what you can start to do is change your role in the meeting. Get really curious like, am I just a passenger? Am I just here for alignment? An observer? Well, that's not good enough, frankly. How
Or do
might
I
I
just not
switch?
even know? I'm just going.
Yeah, that's right, that's right. How might I switch it? How might I actually start to switch myself to increase my visibility and actually change from being a passenger to a contributor in this meeting? And I think the best way kind of ties back to that prep point. Prep, master the meeting before the meeting, get really comfortable with what is being discussed at the meeting so that you've got a couple questions to ask. You might have a perspective to share, and then done. You flipped your role if indeed you have to be there.
And I would say for anyone who says, I don't have time to prep, I'm back to back meetings. Well, maybe you should cut some because if you're not prepared and ready to contribute, you're actually not adding much value in those meetings. So you may be best to get the transcript for one and spend that time prepping for the rest of them. The other hot tip that I think is underutilized is creating a culture of turning up for part of the meeting. Hey, I'll come for the start. We're sharing this, and then I'm going to bow out. And you can say that you can say that at the start of the meeting. You don't have to stay this whole time. And there is a real cultural thing about like, oh, it might be rude to just cut out, but prep it and just say, hey, I'm just going to join for the first 5 minutes where I'm going to be participating and then I'm going to leave you to it. That's okay. And I think even doing that and clearing 15 minutes off each meeting is a really, or turning up at the halfway point or 10 minutes in, we can change the format of meetings, especially now that they're online, that you do remove a lot of that kind of pre-small talk stuff. I have created mayhem in this podcast recording. So I think that we have really helped our podcast editor have his work cut out for him. Thank you. You do God's work. And I will reward you by the origin of another phrase, under the weather.
Um, I don't know. Something to do with an umbrella or in a bus stop?
I just was thinking as well, people probably because he's quite good won't realize that this podcast is mayhem, but there were dog crying and trying to play tug of war with my arm, and I disappeared for about 10 minutes partway through, which will all be invisible to you because we have an amazing editor. Under the weather. It is when you used to everything comes from shipping or military. When you used to be on the big ships and there was really bad weather, the theory was if you were up on deck in the weather, you would feel really seasick. So they put you right at the bottom of the boat where apparently it wouldn't move as much so that you were under the weather. So it
But
was
I
a way of
thought
saying, I'm
it's weird
feeling
how the
sick.
conno Oh, it's a
I'm
way of
feeling
saying.
sick, so I'm under the weather.
Oh, I see. But you should be up on deck if you feel sick.
This was back in the oldie days. I don't know if they if they knew that then. Let me just double check that because 1800s, you initially used by sailors. When a sailor was feeling seasick or unwell, they would often go below deck to escape the elements and recover, quite literally putting themselves under the weather on the
Well,
deck
clearly
above.
they don't know it's the wrong thing to do. You have to stare at the horizon and stay outside, but anyway.
I know. I don't. None of these little definitions tell you that that's the right thing to do. Nowadays, we have to worry about things like that on spaceships, where that advice also doesn't work. A, because you can't go outside, but apparently, is it closing your eyes that works better? Uh, a little hot tip for seasickness as well. You're meant to smile.
Oh,
Yeah, smiling triggers something that like makes you feel better. That then, yeah, apparently, smile.
that's one of the serotonins or something.
Maybe
Anyway,
it's
interesting.
something to do with I don't know what it is. So you're welcome, podcast editor et al. And I will go now and rescue my rescue dog from his crate of room.
Okay, everyone, we hope you can make a shift. Our invite actually at this mini masterclass that we ran for power suitors was just remove one meeting, okay? One meeting. Try and get one meeting out of your calendar this week after all that babbling that we did. One meeting. And if you want a bonus tip, change your role in the meeting from passenger to something a bit more strategic.
I love it. And we're both off to our peer groups tonight. Our personal boards of directors are convening tonight. So I wonder if next week's a good time to do another little update on what's happening.
Do it.
I love mine.
Let's
I
do
can't
it.
wait. We've got like a whole group message of like, can't wait.
Aw, I love it. No,
And they're
that's
coming to
that's a
meet the
good idea.
couples. So it will be chaotic.
Aw, okay, well, enjoy. Everyone check out powersuit.com and we'll catch you next time. Bye.
Bye.